Good evening, folks. I'm Baroque, and welcome to Eternal Strands. This is the debut game from new studio Yellow Brick Games. We've got some industry veterans in here. A third-person action-adventure game, seemingly taking some inspirations from Shadow of the Colossus, Breath of the Wild, Monster Hunter. I think it'll be the perfect appetizer for games coming up as the year goes on. And I'm always curious to see what a new studio brings, and this seems to be quite the ambitious first going. So without any further ado, let's get stuck in. We'll keep it on normal. What's the difference on hard? Less health, less healing. Keep on. I'm not a glutton for punishment these days. Hope we're all doing well today, by the way. The workday's not been too bad. Get yourself a warm beverage. Come join this new story with me. Weavers born in the next era ask what we were willing to risk wrangling these capricious lands into hearth and home. Our exploits must answer simply, whatever it takes. Maximilian Ardan, founder of the Enclave,
was once the heart of magical development and trade for practitioners of magic all across the Maida Basin. Not all weavers claimed it as their home, but those that did built a legacy of progress, constructs, and innovation. The likes of which have not been seen since the Surge, almost half a century ago, when a cascade of arcane disasters racked the Maida, and without warning, the Enclave sealed itself away behind a magical wall known as the Veil. Rich and powerful leaders were wounded and killed. Decades of war broke out. Every nation suffered an economic collapse. The world is calmer now, but magic has been shunned, taking the blame for decades of unrest. Weavers remain pariahs to this day. Most places tolerate us if we don't stay too long. While some weavers remember what it was like before the Surge, I've never known a time when weavers had a home. I chose this life years ago, but I'd be lying if I said it lived up to all I hoped it would be.
I'm in a bit of animation.
Still, my luck might be changing. A few weeks ago, I began traveling with a new weaver band. Now, they've brought me here, where it all began.
Thanks.
Bryn, over here.
Dead. Okay, big bit of setup. And into the scene. Reminds me a lot of Wayfinder's art style of games that have come out recently. It's like it a lot. Very painterly fantasy.
What do you think?
When you told me that joining your band meant I'd see the Veil, I wasn't picturing this.
Seeing the Veil?
No one's been this close in years. The base is shrouded in tangles. Weavers have known about this safe zone in the Veil's shadow for decades, but no one has found a route into it. Until now.
Ah, we the first.
You have no idea what I had to do to puzzle out this passage.
I definitely want to hear that story later.
My hope is that we're going to find artifacts from the Enclave itself deeper into the shadow. I'll stay to oversee the camp setup. Why don't you take the preliminary scouting expedition?
Don't mind if I do.
Really?
Of course. It's important for the other weavers to see how you do in the field. The map I bartered for in Tarza suggests there's a watchtower deeper into the valley. Shouldn't be too far from where we are.
That's my first landmark, then?
Yes. It should help us get our bearings before we start the search for the Strand Road. And if you make any discoveries, That will endear you to the band.
For sure. I'd love to find my footing with the rest of them.
I'll act as the watcher on the scry and pull you back if anything gets too dangerous. Just steer clear of the tangles. Any questions before you head out?
Avoid the tangles, find new things, impress new friends. Question hubs like below will loop back to ask more questions. The top option continues the dialogue. Already heard options will get grayed out. Understood? Like the clarity up front.
The Strand Road?
A famous trade route into the Enclave that led straight to Denevron. The hub for bartering magical goods. Before the Surge, caravans used the Strand Road to enter and exit the Enclave with their goods. It's been completely submerged by tangles, unfortunately. Still, if we can get any closer to that passage, we will find rare artifacts lost in the Surge.
Okay.
I know the scry is a standard device across Weaver bands, but my previous leader, Aaron, didn't really make use of ours.
He sent you on expeditions.
Surprised, Birdface.
I mean, I wore the earpiece, but he didn't exactly stay close to the table at the camp while I was out.
That's incredibly dangerous. I'm surprised you're still alive.
Yeah. Anyway, mind explaining how it works in your Weaver band?
When you go on an expedition, you'll wear the earpiece, which allows me to communicate with you and give directions from the scry table.
You're giving yourselves lore to explain gameplay systems.
At the table,
Always appreciate a little
everyone
bit of
will
that.
be able to watch your expedition and communicate with you as needed.
Aye aye.
The last, most important function of the scry is that it allows me to use magic to pull you back to camp when your life is in danger.
Understood.
Right.
Okay, scrolling there. We're ready.
That clears up anything I needed to know. I'll head to the watchtower.
Glad to hear it. You can head out then.
Oh, we're just in. Reach the watchtower deeper into the valley. Very shiny cape.
No visuals on the scry. Can you hear me?
Loud and
I
clear.
can. Some interference, though.
Must be the tangles. Still, strong enough to pull you out like you practiced. Dom?
I'm on it.
I always get the urge to start jumping around and hitting the other buttons. I'm going to wait till the game tells me. That generally works better.
The veil. Even more impressive up close.
Pretty game thus far.
Should magnify the enchantment.
Tangles. Beautiful.
And deadly. Give them a wide berth.
Okay, nasty poison fog. We got it.
The closer you get to the veil, the thicker they'll become.
Oh, it does damage over time.
Shadow
Thanks,
is
game.
believed to be impenetrable.
Until now.
Boxes. Oh no. Iron. Levers. Time to get crafty. Now, this game does away with the more conventional kind of upgrade your strength, health, mana and all that, vitality. And we're just kind of going on a monster hunting gear. As in, you find bits and bobs, put them together. Oh, I can charge my hits. Seems to be a stamina bar. I can break everything. No sticks, though. Oh no, this is a problem. The moment I know I can break it all, I'm like, Run out of stamina pretty quick. Maybe only stuff that's glowing will give me resources, though. More to discover. Down the D-pad seems to be a potion.
That wall is completely
Big jump.
frozen.
Oh. Weaver's Grasp. Lifts and moves objects and creatures. Purple aura marks valid targets, while those marked red are too heavy for the current level of the strand. Left trigger to prepare the strand, right trigger to cast, release right trigger to throw it forward. Ah, so the telekinesis.
We should expect enchantments to act strangely this close to the veil.
It's rolling off on its own.
See those glowing bulbs? Infernal
Oh.
alliums. They can
combust.
Oh.
So if I toss one at the wall, its
Uh-oh.
fire will melt the ice.
That's not a good start.
Brilliant. Best to use kinetic magic to keep clear of the blast.
All right. It's a very physicsy. I know there's fire, ice, and telekinesis, and it's all kind of balanced around that. Oh my goodness. Got a really good forward leap on her. Oh, move against any vertical surface and start climbing. There's your Breath of the Wild. Up we go. Stamina's going to be real important. Vitality tonic. I'm full of. If I am full, it will heal me. Oh, the mushrooms. I can't full on break the big tree. Oh, I can break bits of tree. Gonna be a lot of experimentation from me here. If you're expecting really quick pace and running through, you've come to the wrong place.
Perfect. Knowing the watchtower's relative position
Tutorial.
establishes
Follow the route.
distance to the Strand Road. You can come back to... What is that?
Coral. There were rumors of a living mineral that grew deep beneath the Enclave's surface.
A biological stone.
There's more of it in that cave. I could take a closer look.
Too risky to deviate from the plan. First outing was just to reach the watchtower.
Look, cave.
This is going well. I say we check it out before finishing the expedition.
Yes, Aurea. Yes. Get me in there. Okay, I'm climbing over, and will jumping send me in that direction? Okay, it will. Huh! I made a mistake. There we go. Introducing baddies? Question mark?
Beautiful. I've never seen anything like it.
Dan's right about it being a living mineral. I can feel it humming with magic.
Too close.
Wait, I'm losing...
Aurea?
Dragon! A fancy looking dragon? Right, it's only just caved me in out of spite. New adventurer gets stuck in that cave. Oh. Fancy doggo with little glowy spines.
Was that a drink?
Yeah.
Pulling you out.
No! Let me fight the doggo, we're fine.
Yes, breath. I knew this was a bad idea.
We can't extract you.
Darn,
Lock
fix
on, I
it.
can charge attack, I can block.
And Lane have tonics
I have
on
dodge.
standby for their return.
Ow! That was quick. Oh! Sorry, doggo! Up! Yeah. Oh, it's still there. You're kind of stuck, doggo. Give me its hide. Akala's. Ooh, there's a parry!
Head out of the cave so we can get
Love a
up
good
there.
accidental parry to start with. And I grab these bones. Give me the bones. No, no material on the bones. But they are a weapon. That's an easy way to break stuff as well. Do have a bit of a mana bar by the looks of it. Pretty generous with how much I can lift and chuck about though. Well, I can just remove the whole structure. Never mind. Get out of it. Get out of it. I'm going to have a lot of fun with this. I can already tell. sure we're looting all we can. It's going to be important. That's how many plants and stuff it is as well. Means assumably all of it can be set on fire and or frozen and or done together like that. Angry Dirg is still around. Feels a bit soon for this game, but sure. Music's going for it. Is it time to run? I love its design. A regal armor with like the golden decals going up it. Just came to show off. And ruin my path forward.
It's an ash peak drake.
Quick, change
Your
strands.
frost
Oh!
magic can cool a path.
Weaver's Grasp Ice Wall. Ice Wall rapidly freezes water in the air to create chunks of ice. Useful for pinning foes of all sizes, creating ledges or bridges. Distant targets aim at the furthest point and draw the ice closer. Aim L, prepare, art, fire. Ah, it's like our traversal tool as well as combat assistance. Uh-oh. I've made a mistake. Let's go round. I'm just burning in here, I realise. I'm going to have to really figure out how I aim this. Move the stick a little quicker.
John's still working on the scry, but you need to keep moving. Lane, got anything from the map?
There should be a minor patrol path ahead that loops back to the watchtower. It runs close
Okay,
to
it
the
drains
portal.
mana faster.
It's our only option.
I'm on it.
Oh! And then it's mine. So I can create my own telekinesis projectiles. Doesn't seem to be a quick swap option like tapping the button, but that's okay. Cross magic can pin enemies in place.
That drake's acting like...
Let's just focus on getting her back safe.
I'll go back down to the line.
Oh dear! What was hurting me there? Oh no, I was just hitting the floor. I probably need that, so... And so far it seems like only things with glowiness on them. Right now, hello, doggo. I'm gonna try the parry again. Not far off. Oh, actually, it was trying to dig itself out. Moa doggo. Oh, we've already dealt with like 4 of them. We should be fine. Nice cute little hop. Oh, it's now dragon food.
Damn it,
Baby
Jasmine
carry.
was right. That drake is rutting. Erratic flight. Aggressive. It won't stop.
Bit of a sprint
Right.
attack.
What do we do?
We get you back to the caravan fast.
Hold up, LB. Oh, and now I can
Clear
change
line of
weapon.
fire. Good time to use your bow.
Okay, instead of the shield. Oh, I get you. It's a pull in, then there. And then I can just kick. Delicious spin kick. Alright, we'll get a hand of all these systems as we go. Nope. Can't lock on in the same way. That does a lot more damage than shooting it with arrows, mind you. It seems pretty generous with mana at the moment, but hard to say until we get further in. And I don't just want to start climbing and trying to explore when I know I'm being tutorialed a bit.
If I'm reading the map correctly, following this brook should lead to the path guards used to reach the watchtower prior to the
Might need to mess with my stick settings a little bit. I'm not really a bow kind of guy, but can do like quick shots, but that all costs stamina as well. I'm with you. Okay. I think I'll stick with sword and shield for now, lest we're going to need it for, say, flying enemies. But if I can freeze them and just bring them down, then that kind of sorts that out for me. Oh, hello, hello, hello. I see you. Give me that leather and iron. Need to be making pants soon, I'm sure. Well, plant didn't do much damage, so that makes sense. Explodey plant. Fire seems to spread pretty quickly as well. Red is still damage. Thought it was only if I could see flames.
That Drake is never far behind. Just keep going.
I will not. I've got to keep gathering stuff. Yeah, I don't need to jump on these. She will just hop up it. Unless I do that. Ah, we're fine. No stuff?
That's the path.
You're doing great, Bryn. Find the switch.
Swig of his beverage. Sure you're doing the same out there. Keep hydrated.
An ark.
No one has seen one in almost 50 years, let alone outside the veil.
The Archons never left the Enclave. Still, you need to get...
This dragon just wants all the screen time for the prologue. Assume it's going to be my first boss of some kind, or unless now.
You've got to hold it off. We'll work on an escape plan.
Okay. I'm on it. Not fair, not fair. Not fair, dragon. Pretty good that I can just hold it in place, kind of. Then I can just kind of... I'm on your wing. It's not gonna get me. It's kind of going to get me. I'm going to run out of stamina.
Close to the veil. The tangles.
No, it's horns.
Thick, no.
Oh, I kind of want to just keep fighting it. I've pulled one of its horns. Nah, I couldn't just assumably pull one off. Oh, Robert. Yep, that would have been a way to use the ice. Use it to block the fire. I suppose for those who didn't realise during the fight, hey, look what you can do with your magic. Oh, booble. That's who I hate bubbles.
Skies, if this isn't the strangest.
What the? Hang on, Bryn.
Oh, peek back to camp.
Everything okay back there?
Change of plans, everyone! Pack up! You're... What? We're coming to you, Bryn. Follow that arc.
Oh, we just unloaded everything.
Go, now.
Third straight up narrow turret.
Up ahead!
Very silly.
Clean!
No. Oh, we can't lose the bird.
Fine, keep moving!
Oh, she good, she good.
Guys, the arc!
We just use magic again, Bryn. That seemed to do it. We'll be fine. So we'll find an extremely idyllic place to sit. Hey, what I tell you, it was all fine. Which sounds like these like comic style or animated style cinematics. I feel like that happening in game would have had a bit more of an impact. And you see it a lot when you crest over, like Breath of the Wild is probably an easy example. You crest over that hill and the expanse widens before you. Like when that happens in game, it's just a little more like, oh, these are minor nitpicks. And you've got to bear in mind, first game, smaller studio. Thick, tusky tiger dude. There's a lot going on there. The world they set up, there's a lot of races. I imagine if they did a sequel maybe with character creation, they've got a lot to draw from. Kind of tiefling demon lady statue? Or goddess or some such? World intricacies I'm curious about. See, look at that fascinating thing. Beast of burden, but it's got giant antlers, and it's kind of... It's not quite on two legs, but you know what I mean? It was more hunched, it wasn't cowl-like. On that bit arch is the main menu thing. Ah. The team.
Has anyone else noticed we're practically sitting on a loom gate?
That can wait, Dom. Oria, you should be resting.
This lady's no nonsense.
If your wing doesn't heal, our point is out of commission.
That's what I need to address.
Oh, hence the bandage on the arm.
While my wing recovers, Bryn will take over expeditions as our acting point.
You sure she's ready for all of this?
Oh, they're doing facial expression changes. It's a nice little bit of detail.
Peak Drake and live to tell the tale. I think we're in good hands.
Yes. I have every confidence that she will make a great point.
As long as we don't all die here first.
Sebastian. The dry one. The dialogue choices guide Bryn's demeanour and explore different parts of her character. There are no wrong choices. I see, it's kind of... as it says. Team is a pet sort, remind them we're still weavers. Needs to have faith, inspire with confidence. Understandably, we'll offer reassurance.
Our arrival was rocky, but I will do everything in my power to ensure our survival. If we avoid unnecessary risks, we'll be back on our feet in no time.
I'm glad you're taking this seriously.
Exactly. When we first set out to investigate the Veil's shadow, we had no idea we'd end up here. The Enclave was once a safe haven for all weavers, and the pinnacle of innovation. Since the Veil went up, weavers took the blame for decades of war. Stories that put children to bed, preached the evils of our magic.
Everybody here's magic?
All because of what happened here. We owe it to ourselves and to our brethren across the Maida to find out not just what happened, but why. Maybe then, weavers can find our place in the world again.
Also, it's nice to see a debut game just come out with widescreen support, especially on the ultra-wide stuff like mine. Even games like we played Space Marine 2 and Elden Ring, they both didn't for the very least their launches.
Survival.
So I appreciate the extra time and care.
That's you and me. Find me when you're ready. Adjourned.
Judd. Thought with Aurea to plan the next step, so we're just in base camp. Day 1, afternoon. We'll have a chat with everyone. What's our big weaving board here then?
The whole band gathers around when I'm away from camp. It's nice to have people literally watching my back.
Cinematics seem to show that you kind of just see like golden outlines of people. And I like the whole spinstrel thing going on with it. Very interesting thematically. I don't imagine it'd make for good watching, but those in Fantasylands, no TVs, so there you go. No, we can just get straight into it. Let's talk first.
You've been busy.
When active, talk provides optional conversations that react to events. Talk never starts or advances a quest.
It's a work in progress. Taking stock and all. We lost a lot of gear running for our lives. Speaking of, are you doing okay?
Eager to explore. I'm ready.
We all got through it safe. And in the process, we did the impossible. We breached the veil of the Enclave. Land of mystery and danger. I can't wait to get out there.
Treasures and glory, huh?
And bars singing our names.
Then I'd best make sure you stay safe enough to tell the tale. Oh, and listen. We've got your back, okay? All of us.
No.
Right now, we need to focus on getting our feet back under us. And you need to get the lay of the land while we do.
I get the feeling this is going to be full camaraderie, not really inter-party anger and dissent, but more just a joyous story of discovery. Could be wrong, but that's certainly the vibe we're going for right now. Crafting! Craft new arms and armour at the smithy. Each design uses a combination of different classes of material, forged, carved, etc. Those materials are divided into slots. The top slot uses the most materials, but has the biggest impact on an item's stats. Materials have properties such as weight, resistance to heat, and so on, while also affecting colour. Mix and match materials to create custom gear in both ability and looks. Ooh! Some quests also require crafting. These live in their own category, but work the same. Provide the needed materials and craft the item to advance. Quest materials are only ever used for one recipe. Very good, and I'm glad they clarified. What can we do? Got our mundane sword and shield, which we do not have enough resources to upgrade. I didn't expect to be able to upgrade anything at the moment. I see, and that's how you pick more. And that's how you change the colour. Oh, I see. I like that. That changes the armour, heat resist, cold resist, and weight. And see, it seems pretty straightforward, but I like that a lot. Also seems to have levels to it. I only have the one colour for the metal, so that's why that's like that. Got it. Sebastian. It's going to be hard not to call him Sebastian, but you know. You've got a fancy little forgy thing as well. If that's the actual forge, is this like enchanting or something? It seems magical.
Sev, how are you
Nah,
holding
just Sev. Very well.
Oh, fine. I mean, I'm trapped inside a magic bubble that's filled to the brim with life-threatening creatures.
I'm not expecting his voice to be so like old, bothered, and wizened, but I like it.
Also left an entire known world behind, and I'll probably never see remnants of my past life again.
Good God.
But, you know, I'm fine.
Spiraling. Try to look on the bright side. Reflect with humour. Sympathise.
It's okay if you're scared, Sev. I'm a little nervous myself.
Oh, good. Our point is worried.
God damn it.
One person who's supposed to be fearless.
Why is he blushing?
Sev,
This apprenticeship is turning into more than I signed up for.
Apprenticeship? You seem so old.
that is completely understandable. We're all reeling.
Yeah. You're probably right. Listen, I should get back to helping Sola.
I was talking with Sola earlier.
Oh, he's her
She's
apprentice
a great
then,
listener.
I assume.
Maybe talk to her about how you're feeling too.
I wouldn't want to burden her.
Oh, bless him. He's a big, soft, cuddly fella.
She'd be happy to help.
I'll think about it.
Tell you what, by the end of this journey, Sebastian, I'll have you sorted out. Don't worry. Right, what else have we got about? This. A small journal. Detailed reminders of diplomatic tools. Codex fragments include Bryn's attunement to locales around the Enclave, as well as unlocking lore projects at Lane's archive. Okay, so that's my objective. Codex stores information about the world and mysteries of the Enclave uncovered for exploration. Represent points of data on a subject. When enough are acquired, Lane can research them to unlock a complete entry. Oh, we've already got some stuff going on. Also, we don't get every single one being, it's time to sit in here and read. We do that kind of once we've got all of the fragments. Unless it's already done, of course. Or, you know what time it is if you've watched any of the streams on this channel. Time for some reading. The Enclave was a city-state located on the southern arc of the Medes Sea. Founded centuries ago by a group of weavers led by the eccentric but daring Maximilian Arden, became a hard-won refuge for those most interested in the magical arts. Securing the territory that would become the Enclave was no easy task. The environment presented a variety of challenges. Terrain was often nigh impassable, the local fauna was unusually vicious, and the weather was unpredictable at best. These trials, among many others, tested the wills of even the most resolute settlers. Despite this, a nation-state slowly formed from humble beginnings. In the years after its founding, the Enclave became home to many practitioners of both the magical and mundane arts. Hi, Carice in the chat. Hope you're doing well today, bub. At the height of its power, the Enclave boasted the densest accumulation of magically trained warriors, vast wealth from its concentrated ability to produce and innovate on enchanted items, and remarkable political sway thanks to acting as a trade hub. Among its most notable achievements were the development of the Arcs, magical constructs that served as labourers and protectors of the Enclave, with the largest towering over their creators. All of this prosperity made the sudden decision to seal the Enclave away behind a magical wall called the Veil as inexplicable as it was calamitous. In an instant, the Enclave was shut off from the outside world, its magical walls spilling toxic concentrations of raw magic down its sides. The activation of the Veil also sent a shockwave of energy that caused extensive and often deadly malfunctions on all enchanted devices across Maida. What followed was decades of strife as the sudden disappearance or sudden disaster sparked numerous wars and disasters. The Enclave lurks still, leagues of land shrouded under its deadly veil. It acts as a constant reminder of the dangers of magic that ensure weavers who still follow the traditions that founded the Enclave are mistrusted. To this day, nobody's quite sure what happened to all those people inside. And here we are, making camp at its edge. I write this in the curious stillness that permeates the air. It's unlike other places. The Udine magpie does not sing here. We do not fear attacks from bandits or aggressive wildlife. One might even call it idyllic, if not for the constant reminder of disaster looming over our heads. Deeper dives into the stuff. Got a chunk to get through, as is always the case when we first get into a new game. There's always a bit of Codex setting things up. Let me have a swig of my beverage, don't want to completely dry out my throat. Maida Basin. Lands of 7 great states drain into the basin, the Maida Sea, kept apart and occasionally at each other's throats by centuries of political rivalries, alliances, and intrigues. These nations are nonetheless bound together by a dense web of trade dependencies, cultural fusion, and the shared threat of the numerous wild and magical creatures that stalk the dark corners of the region. Again, a lot of setup here for the world that could easily translate into another game with like custom characters, more areas on a world map, that kind of thing. It's a good first step. The youngest of these nations, prior to the calamitous magical surge, was the Enclave, home to the Weavers and their masterful enchantments. To the south, the secretive desert kingdom of Taza stretched behind a wall of mountains that acted as a defensive curtain. To the east of the Enclave were the rich mercantile houses and fleets of the Undine Federation. These family-fueled city-states rarely cooperate, but can form a surprisingly unified front when tested. Bringing north of the Great Sea are the hardy people of Donbregin, battered by the storms, sweeping west off the endless ocean. Further inland lays the great empire of Sansars, rich with prime agricultural land, mighty armies, and wealth from conquest. Further west still, one finds the rebellious nation of Calnhaven, perched in ore-rich mountains. Memories of their dominion by the Sanhas monarchy still sting fresh, and to Calhaven's southwest, nestled deep in the last valleys before the end of the world, looms Renland, rich with tradition, dominated by the Church of the Hallowed Pyre. Lines between clergy and noble have blurred over generations of the religion's dominant role. Ah, I see. Paladin land. The Enclave history itself? Not a huge amount of entries in it. It's not looking at like Dragon Age of Veilguard where there was over 200 of the damn things. I enjoyed reading, sure, but some days it was a lot. Halfsiders. The region currently occupied by the Enclave city-state was formerly contested land where the alleged ownership shifted between Taza and various Undine city-states, depending on the cartographer's political leanings. Don Brenning also laid claim to parts of the region. In practice, however, the land was deemed far too hostile to settle, and the matter of its ownership was merely a battle of rhetoric. Its political status changed when a group of entreprenizing weavers led by a man named Maximilian Arden secured rights to it. I bet his name's going to come up an awful lot, isn't it? To attempt a settlement of the location from all 3 claimant nations. Arden hailed from old money in Renland, and was a famed weaver, allowing him to access those with considerable clout in all 3 claimant nations. Through a series of deft manoeuvres, he managed to secure rights of settlement from Taza, Undie, and Donbrig. Donbrenning? I'll eventually get the names right. Then used those rights to convince each patron in turn pushing their claim could spark a war. Thankfully, Arden had a solution. He would purchase the settlement rights and found something independent. Gamble paid off. Rather than incite aggressions and diplomatic tensions from credible foes, the nations agreed to sell their claim to Arden. Allah. I can words. The land could become someone else's problem. In the event of a war sparking, each country's coffers could benefit from Arden's money, though the amount he paid each was comparatively a pittance. With rights secured, Arden's team established Arden's Landing, a small settlement that grew over time into a trade port. Weavers across Maida were drawn by opportunities afforded by the new land, and many found themselves staying for good. Often called half-siders by the roving weaver bands, these early settlers laid the foundations for what would grow into the modern-day enclave. Enclave? Enclave. These half-settlers will be all the locals that we will be looking for, I suppose. Oh, we do get the races. Okay. So this is Bryn's race. Yep, standard human by the looks of it. How does one describe oneself in clinical terms? It can be hard to set aside the assumptions of normal as this lawkeeper experiences it. Yet the peoples of the Maida are diverse, so an effort must be made. Paired with the Kaisil, as the most populous peoples around the Maida, which our skin tones range from a deep brown to so pale as to be almost marble white. They possess a wide range of hair and eye colours. Ashar generally live between 60 and 90 years of age with proper care of self and judicious application of alchemy needed at times as the years advance. They can be found and usually share majority with their Kaisil cousins, every nation around the Madai and at all strata of society. Of the two, Ashar are considered the sun-touched and tend to be the most alert and awake during the day, in contrast to the preferentially crepuscular Kaisil. I'm going to have to Google that later, top of my head. Two cultures have grown in symbiosis since before recorded history, handing off the work of the day from Ashar to Kaisil, such that most enterprises are operational at all hours. Ashar harvest the grain under the sun to ensure it is dry and avoid the night's dew, while the Kaisil counterparts fresh through the dark hours. Kaisil bakers prepare the morning's bread, then leave work to an Ashur-run morning house to wind down their day in the rising sun before sleep, and on it goes. It is said no great city in the Maida ever truly sleeps. Commerce, industry, and leisure never lack rested, willing participants, regardless of the hour. Imagine just type of folk who literally work best in the day and night. It's a step past being a morning or an evening person. You just get stuff done. Cities that never sleep. Ashar. While Kaisil and Ashar couples are not unheard of, it is understood that such romances require more of each other, with natural resting points as opposites. Two must find a compromise, often aided by modern alchemy. If one's a night person and a morning person, it is literally difficult to spend time together. Our band has a couple that sometimes benefits from such aids, in fact. Also accepted is the simple truth that children of such pairings are rare as well, even should the couple be trying for such. The specific mechanics of how and why are best left to more detailed texts, such as those stored in the hidden and fully secured compartment under Kasmid's sock drawer. Oh dear. But suffice to say that the Kashar, as such children are called, are a source of much joy for the parents and community alike, as they stand as living testament to the cooperation of the two peoples. Aww. Often living on a spectrum between their parents, Kashar are quite varied in appearance. Some boast horns, and many are smaller than those of their Kaisil parents. Some could pass as full Ashar or Kaisil. There seems to be no specific predictor or commonality between Kashar, except that, to a one, they all seem to simply need less sleep than most anyone else. Often capabilities of staying awake for days on end with no seeming ill effects, Kashar often describe moments of fatigue when it hits them as overwhelming, as they can sleep a whole day away at those times. Imagine never needing sleep, or not as much. Okay, so they did the Ashar, then the middle one, and now the other side of it. The Kaisil are similar to Ashar in appearance, though their skin tones tend to be more varied and chromatic. It's impossible to overlook their horns. Still, the two cultures have traditionally worked exceptionally well together for as long as history has tracked them. As a group, still tend to live a bit longer than the Ashar, entering their old age around 90 and naturally living to roughly 110 years of age. They also generally take longer to mature, with limited exception. Young Kaisil tend to stay under the care of their parents into their 30s, creating a tight family bond that usually lasts a lifetime. Kaisil rarely have more than 2 to 3 children per couple, in part due to the long and dedicated investment of time and care in each child. As a result, they are nowhere near as populous as the Ashar, who tend to larger families. While they tend to be polite about it, it's generally accepted that while the Ashar generally think the Kaisil coddle their children and waste their time, the Kaisil feel their cousins are flighty and irresponsible parents. The Kaisil my brain just... Biology is fundamentally adapted for nocturnal living. They possess keen dark vision and hearing compared to the Ashar cousins, and naturally sleep during the heat and sun of the day. The horns are also exceptionally sensitive to sound and subtle fluctuations of the wind, making them exceptional hunters, guards, and so on, especially in the cover of night. This dynamic can be observed in our own Weaver band, as Min and Dam Both prefer the late hours for their labours, but I find that they seldom make conversation while the rest of us are sleeping. As noted elsewhere in this collection, the Shah and Kassil dynamic has fundamentally shaped the Madar. Towns and cities alike offering services at all hours, thanks to the range of available workers. Okay, so the horned folks work in the night, and the more standard human-looking folks work in the day, and that's their culture around it. Ah, the bird folks. The Oberon are an avian race whose legends tell of a great migration from across the spires to the west of Maida. They range in size from 4 to 7 feet tall, and primarily evince sexual dimorphism through the colour of their plumage. Compared to Ashar and Kassil, Oberon are lighter in weight, but roughly equal in strength. They are diurnal or nocturnal, depending on the heritage or preference of the Oberon. And as many share the same working hours with the Ashar as they do the Kassil. So depending on the type of bird, you eagle or owl type deal. Oh, come on, throat will be fine. Oberon arms are long and sport broad feathers, which allows them to glide for short distances. Their lighter bodies are capable of high jumps and short glides that allow them to cover ground quickly, especially rough ground. Though the exertion of sustaining this kind of pronking glide is exhausting according to both first-hand accounts and my own personal research. Oberon plumage is a deeply personal aspect of both culture and courtship, where their wings and tails become an extension of their expression. Often, Oberon weave time for dance into their social events, regardless of size. The dances are personal and varied. An Oberon may have a routine passed down through family or have developed one explicitly to display their finesse and devotion to a potential suitor. These dances can be performed in a group setting, for celebration, or for choreographed theatre. A warrior may incorporate weapons into their dance, like a kata, and in the case of warrior Oberon that are courting each other and wish to dance together, they may fight. A retired Oberon warrior was once heard reminiscing about his youth. To feel the blades in my hands, the throes of battle, driving my talons to a rhythm unheard, it is the ultimate dance. One cultural divide that seems to have plagued the Oberon for some time is around the practice of clipping their wings. Some see the shortening of the feathers as simply a practical decision, to keep them clear of a forge's flames or away from sword blows. Others, often the wealthy, consider the practice anywhere from uncouth to barbaric. Whether this distinction is maintained by the nobility specifically to suggest those who labour are simply worth less is an exercise best left to the reader. For what it's worth, I've asked Aurea her thoughts on the matter. She clipped hers seemingly as a matter of practicality, and her response was simpler to tell me to go help Kesmir gather firewood. This response supports my understanding that decision is a deeply personal one. Yet they're all fleshed out just enough where you could see it in, like, not necessarily an MMO, but I'd say in a character creation screen, you could see this laid out there and give you just enough to kind of get your teeth in, get a bit of, like, headcanon backstory going. And the more beastie folk. The rams stand roughly 2 meters tall, with broad shoulders, thick coats of fur, ursine features, and prominent tusks. This would probably be the kind of character I'd make. They are powerfully built. Those who pursue physical labours or training prove capable of incredible feats of strength. On average, ram live to be about 60, reach maturity about age 40. Blimey. 14 and an adult. Terrifying. The ram have been present in the Maida Basin since before recorded history, but they remained solitary and in tight-knit social groups until only the past few hundred years. More of the ram have ventured to integrate into the Great Kingdoms. Despite this growing cooperation, many rams still live apart from the larger Mayday society to this day, preferring to live and operate in small found holds. The concept of a found originated within the ram, who typically cease to consider themselves children of their parents when they come of age. Instead, they form dynamic family units based on shared values and goals, living communally, often with people of the same age. This isn't to say a ram remaining with their parents found is unheard of. It's simply less common than the alternative. There have been some instances of non-rams successfully joining into founds as well, though it is rare enough to be considered deeply unusual. Many ram practice the cultural tradition of Ram Brehlem, a time of self-reflection when they seek a change from their everyday and tackle something new for a few months. A smith might put down their hammer and turn to poetry, while an artist might become a stevedore or pursue other manual labour. I love that as an idea, just culturally, by the way. Do you know what? I've been working for 10 years. It's time just to do some of the opposite for a bit. Like, not oh, I want to do something creative. It's literally the opposite of what you're doing. So an artist would go and do something. I really like that. During these times, Found will support, financially or otherwise, their members who have turned away from work, knowing that in time, they too will receive support when it is time for their Ramberhallam. Probably butchering that. One might expect that I've learned the above facts by interviewing Sev, our apprentice blacksmith. He is, in fact, deeply shy and is difficult to pin down. It does not help one bit that Solo is always within earshot, more than happy to shoo me away. So when it comes to a compilation of essential knowledge, all I have in this case are my books. Being that shy and hard to pin down doesn't make it seem like he's old, but for a race that's pretty short-lived compared to all the others, hard to say? He might be 14, for God's sakes. Cultures of the Mida. Mida Basin offers its denizens a dazzling array of bounties. Chief among those, at least in this lawkeeper's opinion, is our diversity of cultures, each adding a unique ingredient to our melting pot. When I say cultures, I do not specifically mean those limited to national borders. After all, borders on a map do not express the reach of ideas and relationships, and in reality, serve only to inhibit them. But I digress. Each unique culture we know of is a fascinating subject for study, since gaining understanding of a foreign culture is a gateway to understanding more of one's own. For example, the High Kingdom of Taza encompasses a great number of cultural groups, many of which, particular in the desert, choose to keep their interactions with the wider world limited. A culture of one of privacy, and learning to respect that through my travels that led me to better understand the ways in which more open cultures around the Maida communicate. Every nation in the Maida region shares a similar mix of people, merged around through centuries of trade caravans, migration, opportunity and crisis alike. Most numerous of all, the Ashar and Kaisil have always lived side by side in relative harmony. Similar in size and stature, to are fundamentally different in how they approach their day. Ashar thrive under the sun, sleep with the moon, while the Kaisil are nocturnal, better attuned to the sounds and lighting of nights. Together they have formed societies that never sleep. There are always provisioners opened, caravans rolling into town, hunting and farming at all hours. Pubs that never close. Nightmare. On the one hand, like, your local store is always open. You can always get groceries. Never a problem. The cinema's always open. A restaurant's always open. So when is it quiet? That would be my question. When is it quiet ever? Where was I? Here we go. Rarely, but to great celebration, the two might even come together and have a child known as a Kashar. But just as long the feathered Oberon have lived alongside the twin races, their quick eyes and deft hands making them incredible craftspeople, hunters and warriors alike. Oberon culture celebrates detail and attention, and they excel at any task they dedicate themselves to. Our Weaver band's leader, Aurea, is one of the Oberon's very best. The most recent people to join this rich tapestry of Maida life are the Ram. Large, fur-covered, and famously even-tempered, the Rams still tend to live in smaller community family groups known as Founds. There's been a slow migration to the cities in recent decades, though, and numerous Ram have found gainful employment as labourers, craftspeople, and guards. Those few who have indulged politics have found considerable fame for their insight and unflappable natures. Too undiscovered. I'd say there, slap that overview at the top and then give me the ones to read down. Otherwise, I'm repeating myself on that one, even if it's an overview. Right, 3 more. And whatever, great foes. I like that's a page all its own. Right, swig of his beverage. And again, pretty much every RPG I play on this channel is like to start like this, assuming they give me any intro Codex pages to get through. I know that's not everyone's cup of tea. You're welcome to skip ahead. Or if you're joining me live, you're welcome to take a moment. But otherwise, we'll continue fleshing out this world. Okay. Enchanting, put simply, is the art of working a strand of power into an object so that it can create fantastical effects. The process requires considerable expertise, magical aptitude, as well as expensive alchemical ingredients. An enchanted, thus, is a central member of any Weaver band, yet reliant on the rest of the band to pursue their function. A well-trained point can harvest strands of power from mighty foes, and typically benefits from the most from the resulting enchantments, while the rest of the group provides materials and creates the objects to be enchanted. So I need to get specific powers for specific enchants. That seems to sell me. According to our mercurial enchanter Darm, the most challenging aspect of his work lays in not disrupting the strand while working with it. The most powerful strands are harvested directly by the point who intends to use them. It's reinforcing that. Forming the strand for a mix of their own magic and the creature's innate abilities. To work with such a strand risks breaking that special melding, and so requires a light touch on the part of the enchanter. Also, complex is the act of preserving a resonance. Enchanters create these gauzy copies of the original strand for future study. Too weak to carry the kind of energies channeled by a point, resonance can nonetheless be seen as an archive of a band's adventures. They are often used to study subtle differences in strands collected from different creatures across the known world. Speaking of strands, at the very heart of a weaver's art, arsenal and purpose. To the layperson, they are easy to describe. A weaver harvests a strand from the great creatures that menace our lands, weaves the strand into their mantle, and then, with practice, can mimic some element of that creature's power. That is as good a summary as any, but the finer details of each step are intricate beyond belief. For instance, each point undergoes heavy training, aided by various alchemical concoctions to be able to sense the locus of a great creature's power. Many points fail at this crucial step in their training, as it is arduous and disorienting. So, I assume by this, that dragon's going to have one of these, and I got to get to it, or find it, or figure it out, or use a potion to mark it, something like that. Those who succeed often describe it as a transcendental breakthrough, like a shift in perspective or a revelation while viewing art. The act of harvesting requires yet more skill. Points who wish to truly master their abilities must push some of their own magic into the creature's locus. This creates a strand, which is a blend of the two magics, creatures naturally giving purpose and effect to the strand, while the point's magic gives it form. From there, the strand must be maintained, requiring focus and discipline, until it can be passed to an enchanter, then weaves it into the point's mantle. And given the game's called Eternal Strands, this seems pretty important. This process is delicate in the extreme, and explains why the strongest strands can only be wielded by the point who harvested them. The resulting strand is a unique blend of their magic and the creatures. No other weaver could channel high levels of raw magic for a strand not intimately connected to their own abilities. It is for this reason that we are blessed to travel with Aurea Silverpeak, who can only be described as a true veteran in the disparate arts demanded of a weaver band's leader. Due to the brief nature of my tenure here, I have only been lucky enough to witness her harvest a strand once. It is a spectacle I shall not soon forget. And a brief history of magic. Magic fills the very air of the Mida, invisible and undetectable by normal senses, and yet a fundamental underpinning of the world we live in. This element, or raw magic, is collected and focused by certain massive creatures to incredible effect. This is not to say it is exclusive to those mighty behemoths. It is also present in the glow of night flowers, the summer breeze, and an Akala's call. It lays dormant and filled with potential in the people of the Mida as well. Historically speaking, alchemy was the gateway to our understanding. Distillation and combination of plants and other materials to enhance the performance of workers and warriors alike. As more powerful combinations were uncovered, and more dangerous materials required for their manufacture, the bands that would eventually become weavers formed, wandering slayers of mighty beasts, fighting beyond their natural potential. In time, the weaver points who most heavily used the magical infused alchemy reported the ability to see how the larger creatures were channeling their magic, appearing like intricate patterns on the skin of a creature as they drew upon their magic. These locus points of energy were soon dubbed strands. After a few years of experimentation, a way to capture, refine these strands was developed. So I guess for stuff like the dragon or the bigger stuff we've seen in trailers, magic will show us where this focal point is through their bodies? I'm very curious to see. Again, if little Codex bits like this can actually inform gameplay, that's really cool. That's something I wish a lot more games did. I think so. It's something Monster Hunter does really well with its monster breakdowns and its ecology. After years of training and attuning through alchemic practice, a point can learn to harvest these strands and capture the magic's pattern, allowing wait, have I just read this one? No, I haven't. Allowing skilled enchanters to weave those strands into magical cloaks known as mantles. The process is intricate, dangerous, and it takes points years to properly master the ability to channel a mantle's storage of magic safely. As such, While the path to magical abilities was technically open to all, access required a lifetime's dedication. Weavers were often looked at with envy for people quick to perceive their incredible abilities, but quicker still to forget the years of sacrifice that earned them. Envy is, of course, no longer the word one might use to describe a stranger's gaze. They fear us now. And one might even go so far as to say it's for good reason. Two more. Arcane innovations and discoveries. The mantles, which talked about making. Few things are as emblematic as a mantle to a weaver. Brightly coloured and shimmer. I think I've got one on my back already. It's kind of purpley glowy. With faint traces of magic even at rest, many who aren't in the know, so to speak, will blindly assume that the mantle is a source of a weaver's power. In limited specific ways, that is true. The mantle holds the woven strands claimed from the magical creatures of our realm, intricately woven so as to mimic their abilities. It is also a more literal source in that the mantle's gentle motions accumulate raw magic from the air, empowering its user. One capability of the mantles, rarely discussed outside weaver culture, is their capacity to harvest stands from the massive creatures that threaten the Mida. The process takes considerable skill and training, but is essentially one of the pushing the mantle's magic into the foe. This magic, from the perspective of the mantle's wearer, turns the creature's pattern into something tangible, allowing them to pull it free. Debate goes back and forth on whether the harvested strand is literally drawn from the creature or a magical simulacrum shaped by the mantle. But what's known is that once harvested, a strand can be properly woven into a mantle. Without its wearer, though, a mantle is just an inert object. Weavers act as a conduit, bridging the potential energy and patterns of the mantle with the real world, guiding and channeling magic in a physically grueling test of intent and focus. I suppose in theory then you could trade them around, but as it's like from what I understand, the weaver's innate magic that pulls it out, links it to them intrinsically, would make a trading of such things a lot more difficult, even if they were capable of the magic. On the more mundane side, mantles are often, but not always, used to demonstrate their owner's aesthetic preference. Since the power of a mantle lies in a combination of its enchantments and its owner's abilities, the physical shape of the garment is more or less irrelevant. One could, for example, weave one to be used as a scarf or a shawl rather than the cape-style mantle preferred by many members of our band. I myself have mused on how the different environments weavers operate in could lend themselves to different styles of mantles. Could one wear theirs as a hat? There's nothing to say they couldn't. Give me a cape, game. Give me a cape and some massive shoulder pads and we'll be fine. Ah, the scry. Scry is an enchanted table designed to fabricate communication between a point and their band, and to act as a safety net should a point get in over their head. Requiring a constant channel of energy from a weaver, typically known as the Watcher in most bands, Scry can project a visualization of the space around the point in the air over the table. This enables communication in real time, which in turn allows the point to access their band's expertise and resources while ostensibly travelling solo. Maps may be consulted for guidance, dead languages translated by an intrepid lawkeeper, and so on. Just as critical as the above is the Scry's ability to create a kinetic bridge between the Watcher and point, allowing for life-saving recovery should the point be in danger of falling or the varieties of violent death, commonly referred to as pulling. I theorise that this process must be conceptually similar to the enchantments used by the Enclave's Loom Gates, but it's unclear how they worked their magic across such dangerous distances. Of explaining how we respawn, essentially. Scries were designed, developed, and built in the Enclave. Although that means for other games, if you want to do them in this series and have the same respawn mechanic, you always have to have someone who's your scry set up somewhere. Gotta bear that in mind for design. Scries were designed, developed, and built in the Enclave, and this invaluable knowledge was lost for good when the manufacturing facilities were locked behind the veil. Before the Surge, they were quite expensive and often purchased on an extension of credit to be repaid to the Enclave in materials and strands collected by the band. After the Surge, of course, those debts evaporated, so did access to new scries or maintenance of those in service. As a result, they have become scarce in the decade since the Veil's appearance. In turn, there have been fewer and fewer functional weaver bands, with the scry is considered essential to building the expertise and training needed for a point to truly excel. In our band, Oria is our primary watcher, keeping an instructive eye on Bryn as she undergoes point training. Prior to Bryn's arrival, our enchanter... Wait, hang on. I thought Bryn was the one writing this. Might be the lawkeeper then. they mentioned before. I'll get all the names eventually. Prior to Bryn's arrival, our enchanter Dharm frequently took Watcher duty. Though I'm told he was known to loudly complain about the amount of mental effort required to maintain a solid connection. This friction was a large factor in Oria's openness to Bryn joining the band, and the decision, fortunately, seems to have paid dividends. And one more with the Weavers. Ah, our team. Weaver is the general term for any magically trained adept. The term came into use as a result of the ubiquity of mantles. These devices prominently incorporate specially treated cloth that both captures the raw energy used in casting magic and holds the pattern that determines that effect's energy. The act of forming a new mantle shares many techniques and processes with traditional mundane cloth weaving. While technically only trained enchanters, like our very own Dharm, are capable of weaving a mantle, the title stuck and has been embraced by a larger culture. The history of Weaver culture is divided cleanly into 3 distinct phases before the founding of the Enclave, during the Enclave's rise to power, and after the apocalyptic magical disruption known as the Surge. Originally, Weavers were employed as monster hunters and treasure seekers. Our mantles' powers rely on magical ingredients harvested from creatures known as Strands. And so, the benefit was mutual for both Weavers and those who hired us. Travelling in roaming bands, we made ourselves tremendously useful in all corners of the world, and regularly met in conclaves to share knowledge and techniques. None of that culture changed after the founding of the Enclave, but an offshoot culture formed behind the relative safety of those walls. Those who chose to live full-time in the Enclave became known as Half-Siders, a reference to the famous declaration made by the Enclave's founder that it should always remain a half to which any Weaver could return. While all Weavers were welcome in the Enclave, some cracks began to show in the relations between the wandering bands and their more sedentary cousins. Primary among the complainants were the Wanderers, who wondered why the Enclave would not share its greatest achievements and its greatest secrets. I suppose that's what we're looking for in the game. After the Surge, all contact with the Enclave was lost. The Wanderers beyond the Enclave's borders were scattered and weak. Survivors of the disaster only slowly reforming into bands. In the intervening decades, magic use has largely taken the blame for years of war and chaos caused by the Surge. Whether that blame is accurately placed is a matter of perspective, though it is beyond any doubt that the failure of every enchanted device across the Maida caused significant levels of havoc. Just a swig of his beverage. Swig of his beverage. We're almost there, folks. We're fine. Bryn is the newest member of our band, but one who seems poised to leave a lasting impression. Outgoing, capable, and eager to learn, she's the second point in training that Oria's taken on. Hailing from the newly liberated nation of Calhaven, Bryn is one of the first generation born after the Kalhanders won their freedom from the colonialist Sanhaz Empire. Both her parents were involved in the fighting, and her mother rose to the rank of Admirald, leaving Bryn's family both well respected and positioned to attain additional political power. Despite that, our band's newest member chose a life of adventure, following a Weaver band who had passed through her town in the hopes of learning the art of being a point. It seems that her first band wasn't a particularly good environment for that. Regardless, she displayed enough grit to catch the eye of our leader, Oria's Silverbeak, and has so far acquitted herself admirably. It's going to suck when I learn who's writing these, by the way, and what voice they had. And I'm like, right, we're going back to the beginning. We're going to do all these again in the correct voice. No, we're fine. Our band is blessed with a young Kassar of considerable ability as a quartermaster by the name of Kasmin. Hailing from the Windsep coast of Dombrigid, she is... I'm not going to get that right. She's tireless in her role in ensuring the band is prepared for all occasions, opportunities, celebrations, and catastrophes. Her parents are innkeepers, and throughout her youth, travellers would fill the common room with stories of the wider Maida that captured Kasmin's imagination. As she grew older, she started to help along the docks more and more in her free time, eventually signing on with traders focused on the relief efforts, bringing supplies to the still struggling city-states of Ueda. While this chronicler appreciates the necessity of those efforts, it should be noted that Dombrenigs gained considerable control of the sea shipping lanes through those relief efforts and established numerous contracts and contacts that later evolved into purely commercial measures. Still, if the result of those efforts is the capable, tireless quartermaster our band enjoys, they must be lauded, for she is a large part of this band's success, and a good friend besides. Damad Dam Ken-Nuri, our band's enchanter. Damad Ken-Nuri, or Dam to his friends, is a Khalsi of Renlander descent, which may be of surprise to those familiar with the theocratic state's outright hostility to weavers and magic. Despite being raised in such an adverse environment, Dam claims that he always felt a calling to the art, and left his homeland to pursue his dreams as soon as he was able. Travelling as a caravan guard for several years, his path eventually crossed with a group of weavers who had briefly joined the caravan. He struck up a friendship with the group's enchanter, and when the band separated from the larger caravan, Dam paid out his own commission and joined the weavers. Taking to the art of enchanting like a natural, he apprenticed for some time with that band, then another, before finally joining our current band under Oria's leadership. Dam is married to Sola, our band's smith, and will, often without prompt nor provocation, speak rapturously about her. Their love would eclipse the very sun if it were physically possible. I have no doubt he would do absolutely anything for her. Oh. Lane. I didn't consider this part of our story to be particularly worth going into detail on, but Oria told me in no uncertain terms that if I was going to subject her and the rest of the band to a weirdly specific set of interview questions, I would have to write a piece on myself too. Aha, so Len is the one. We'll go and try and remember which one that is in a moment. So here I am, Lenfrey C. Lectis, my full name. I strongly prefer to be referred to as simply Len. As Lectis is unpopular at best, and I would rather new acquaintances' perceptions not be coloured by the poor decision-making skills of my forebears. Ah. Again, gonna have to find Len, their voice, and get it locked in for future Codex readings. Maria's demanded, by the way, that I include the boring bits too. That is, that I am the third child of 4, that I only really like one of my siblings, weird and a little sad according to the rest of the Weaver band, and that I have a deep and abiding love for the act of recording stories. This is because I was essentially raised by my family's library. Once I learned to read, I would spend all day with my nose buried in various books or scrolls. By the time I was 8, I was the most well-read in my family. In time, my reputation as a scholar began to spread. I found myself invited to society parties as fun curiosity. The adults enjoyed it when I spouted interesting facts. This was not ideal or particularly enjoyable for me, but in short order I found myself tutoring the scions of powerful families, who gave me access to even larger libraries. It was worth the frustration of being treated one-dimensionally. Unfortunately, as I grew older, my proximity to seats of power made me a target for those with prying eyes, and to summarise a long and rather frustrating chapter of my life, I was forced into a position where I had to leave home. Fortunately, at the same time, a Weaver band led by a certain Oberon was performing pest control on my family's island, and as it turned out, the band was missing a dedicated lawkeeper. The opportunity to make a real difference out in the world, or at least to escape the oppressive mire of Undine politics, was too tantalising to ignore. So I made my excuses, spread conflicting stories about my departure, purloined some expensive reference tomes that wouldn't be missed, and made my exit. Just all your crimes, right there. And now I'm here, trapped in the Enclave. Undeems use the phrase, "may you live in interesting times," as a veiled threat. I suppose that as far as I'm concerned, they got the last laugh. But as far as interesting goes, being part of the first group to pierce the veil must exist at the very furthest end of that scale. I just hope we live long enough to share this discovery with the rest of the world. I'm sure we will. Sebastian, our much shorter entry. Sev, ram apprentice to our smith, remains somewhat of an enigma. He's Tazan, that much we all know, though no real specifics. He's a hard worker and dedicated. Zola notes that he has a real talent for smithing, a care and precision you don't always find in the apprentices she's noticed. Beyond that, though, however, our mountainous companion is reticent to share more about his upbringing or background. I will confess, I love a challenge, especially when it comes to uncovering truths. He seems nice, at least. There you go. Solana Sola Nicanor Adad. Our band is blessed to have a smith of even temperament and exceptional skill, always quick to lend an ear to any thoughts, and offer her keen insight. It's rare to see Sola's anvil unoccupied. She's not forging tools or shaping armour. She's often found leaning upon it, listening to troubles with caring eyes and a soft smile. It was with some reluctance that our smith shared her complete name with me, as her family history is fraught with tragedy. With a little convincing, however, she was prepared to share it on the assumption that the passage through the Enclave's veil would thwart any would-be assassins or other ne'er-do-wells. Descended from a political marriage that should have made her line one of the most powerful in the Empire, Sola was almost destined to grow up reefed in the trappings of privilege and luxury. Alas, her family was caught in the political maelstrom around the post-Surge Silver Star purges in Sansa, and found themselves in a politically vulnerable situation. As such, Sola grew up on the road with her family, and their diminished fortunes and sparse retinue. After some time in this situation, the convoy came under attack by brigands, though she suspects they were assassins in truth, clearly intent on ensuring her family would not rise again. They succeeded in causing a veritable bloodbath, but young Sola escaped. Shortly after, a band of weavers found her some distance from the attack and took her in, not knowing her history. While they attempted several times to leave her with friendly villagers or townsfolk, each time she would appear again, resolute and determined to join them. Studying with that bandsmith, she learned the basics of her trade before departing briefly to study at more formal schools, though she's oddly reluctant to speak over much of that time. She joined Oria's weaver band 11 years ago, just before her enchanter, and the two of them bonded over being the new kids in the mix. They are now married, and at least outwardly they are on a permanent honeymoon. Nice to say, they are deeply and madly in love with one another. Nyaw. And finally, Oria Silverbeak, our Pinay. Our intrepid leader, Oria Silverbeak, is one of the most famed weavers of our time. That's always a red flag, by the way. Most common in the Fire Emblem games, you get a badass older person with you, they are going to be cut down 5 chapters in at some point. Or, if you use them, they're too strong up front, and the XP they are eating from the early battles could be better spent on your needing to be leveled characters. I hope she gets through. Daughter of an equally well-known enchantress, Oria has been a point for 2 decades and has enjoyed considerable success in the role. Beak is, of course, a moniker given to Oria by others after a poorly dodged swiped by an Ashpeak Drake, unlike the one we fought at the start, or ran from, left her face shattered and disfigured. Her mother designed and smithed the silver filigreed prosthetic beak she now wears. Oh, that explains it. I like that. Literally shows I've been through some shit. From time to time, Oria is known to joke that it's an improvement over her original face. Oria has made it clear that finding a way into the Enclave has been a lifelong goal of hers. It's another red flag. Lifelong goal achieved. Time to go! Where many bands have fallen apart due to infighting, malaise, or the decay of their equipment, hers has remained tight-knit, functional, and a few little typos here. Get a few little typos. That's the second one. One of the times Strands was Stands rather than Strands, and we were suddenly in JoJo's land. That's the second one. Attractive. It's a minor nitpick. It's fine. Some of the most talented adepts around the Maida. Drive tends to push our group into danger, but also towards great discoveries, such as the cumulative effort of decades of experience. It is truly an honour to travel with a living legend. And the last one is our great foes, of which there's 2, funnily enough. Renland Sledgeworm. Wait, neither of these are the dragon. Interesting. Named after its propensity for slamming its head down like the brutal strike of a forge hammer. Maybe this is a bug, by the way, that these have started in the Codex? Can't see why they'd be in here otherwise, other than to tease me. Which, fair enough if that's the case. The Sledgeworm figures heavily in Rhineland legends, and may indeed originally hail from those murky climes. Weaver records stretch back decades, however, and we can thus confirm the presence of these formidable, kinetically gifted creatures across the Maida. After all, sledgeworms are both omnivorous and possessed with appetites befitting their mighty stature, and the simple act of seeking new hunting grounds would easily explain their wide range. Unless the ash drake thing is one of these? Maybe? What's indisputable, though, is that few living creatures can withstand the kinetic barrage of a hungry sledgeworm. Their affinity with well, the dragon used fire, not kinetic, so hang on, let me just swig me a beverage. Their affinity with kinetic magic makes them tricky to harvest, as they can easily repulse anyone who makes the attempt. The aforementioned Weaver records, however, provide a path to success. Oh, we're going to need this. This seems, again, gameplay significant. The sensitive frills across the sledgeworm's body are the key to its ability to focus its ability so precisely. To use an example close at home, they are functionally similar to a cassil's horns, which increase their awareness of sound, that enhance their awareness at night. Without these frills, my throat's given up. Terribly sorry, folks. That's what happens when you just read and read and read out loud. Doing narration for audiobooks, by the way, can you imagine? Did a few hours of like a little bit of voice acting I've done. Can't speak about further over the years. But you spend so much just reading lines and lines and lines and getting take after take after take. Gotta keep having that tea and honey. Without these frills, which can be dislodged along their anchoring scales, the worm risks hurting itself with its powers, something we highly recommend exploiting. Destroying the frills should also buy time to approach and open the locus of power on the worm's tail. Thus the hunter becomes the hunted. Invigorating, to say the least. Okay, so a sledgeworm. Take out the frills. Get the thing on its tail. And a Brennig glasstail. Native to the mountains of Donbrennig, and making its home deep within glaciers, Brennig glasstail is a vicious, intelligent hunter. When hungry, these terrifying beasts can freeze and consume whole herds of krell in a single day. Our quartermaster Casimir, native to the region, knows that when pickings are slim in the highlands, glasstails are forced to hunt in more densely populated climes. He recalls that there have been times where villagers have had to set alight entire fields of crops to deter one of these mighty predators on the prowl. We have written accounts from several points who have succeeded in harvesting strands from glasstail, and they all concur. The locust is buried deep in the mane on its neck. However, reaching this core of their magic through their dense fur is near impossible, so the mane needs to be burnt off. In turn, the numerous ice shards that cover its body and head must be broken. This loss will make the glass tail's body try to regenerate them, making its locust flare and surface as it tries to refreeze. Burn its fur, and then break the shards on it. Hopefully these are now just lodged in my memory. As part of reading out loud and why it helps, it just hopefully helps my brain take it in more. A final note. It seems the glasstail needs to be stunned for the locust to truly open. Perhaps there is a way to take advantage of its penchant for leaping recklessly at distant enemies when enraged. Make it bump its head into something. Sure. Alright. More Codex than I thought straight away, but we got him. The rest will be slowly upgraded, judging by these. Bits of fragments, and then we don't just get it out in the field, we have to come back and unlock them. So that'll break up that pace there. Oh, isn't that nice? Oh. Southall Way Station was built to greet visiting dignitaries to the Enclave prior to the Surge. The scry housed inside its pavilion was used to communicate a visitor's arrival to the Enclave's governing body in the spire, while its loom gate was used to quickly transport said visitors from the outskirts. I have a fragile ice wall resonance. An artificial strand resonates the energies of the original to allow future study. Oh, so this is why I have these abilities. These are left over from another weaver's ability who's pulled them away. See, this is why Codex is useful. I understand these items. So I assume I can upgrade these at some point or pull my own strands to make them stronger. And there's your system stuff. Right, let's continue to chat with folks then. And investigate about. Yeah. Got a literal spindle.
Must need a massive source of magic to function. Instantaneous transit across hundreds of leagues.
Practical yet ostentatious.
Dom? Hello? Everything okay?
Having to yell at him.
Brain, you are going to check out the loom gate at some point, right?
Sure.
Yeah, of course. I'll get around to it.
Good, good. Why it refuses to function is a mystery we must unravel.
What's happening to your glasses?
A priority.
Not worried about our survival in an unknown land filled with volatile magic like the others?
Details. There is so much to discover, survival will take care of itself. Or Casman will insist it does, at least.
I'm glad there's good voice acting. It means I give me voice a rest.
So, our acting point. Is your heart racing at the prospect of traversing these lost lands?
Growing up in Carnhaven, my father told me stories about the Enclave as I fell asleep. It's crazy to think I'm living through what once was just a bedtime story.
Perhaps you'll even become one. We are the first band to cross the Veil in half a century.
I hope history gives our story a more flattering beginning. Not sure I want our tale to start with us tripping over each other as we run from tangles.
With the most daring point to ever live, Bryn of Carnhaven, no one will remember our wobbly entrance.
I will, Dam. I will remember our wobbly
Thanks,
entrance.
Dom.
Of course. Now, if you'll excuse me, something else is tugging at my attention.
Loom gates.
Loom gates.
Literal loom. Oh, excuse me. What are you hiding up here? Look. Oh, that must be where the couple sleep. One would have to assume. Can climb, but up how much here? Not too much. Games like don't go crazy on the tutorial bit. Oh, hello, strange robot.
I wonder how this arc managed to get us through the Veil.
By the looks of it, it was a one-way ticket.
Nah, as the game goes on, we'll wake them up.
Well, the Enclave built many arcs and other magical constructs. I've never heard of one designed to repel Drake's breath, though.
Trying to fit their voice in. I mean, my natural voice isn't too far, just a little more higher pitch and a tiny bit posher. I think we'll be fine reading Codex as natural.
You think we might
It's close
find
enough.
another
It's not
arc
heavily
that has
accented.
escape?
Or possibly repair this one? It must be special somehow. As Aurea said, the arcs never left the Enclave, yet this one did.
More quizzical, maybe.
We know as much as we can from looking at it. Time to start exploring if we want to find answers.
Speaking of. Hello, Len. Codex compiling. There it is.
Lane, you seem lost in thought. Settling in all right?
Hmm? Oh, Bryn. Yes, I am. And you? I notice you've been checking in with the others at the camp.
I have.
You did? Are you spying on me?
Bryn. Just teasing.
Oh, of course not. It's my vocation to observe, not just you,
Sparkly eyes.
everyone.
Ooh.
In fact, if you'd like, I can tell you a little about the others. You are newer to our band, after all.
It's alright. I've read your book. Oh no! It assumed I hadn't read the book. It's fair play. Let's hear it from their voice.
Sev is relatively new to the team too. Has Sola taken on smithing apprentices before him?
Oh, this actually wasn't covered.
No, she's never had an apprentice before. I don't know how he came to be her apprentice either.
I appreciate that it is separate information,
No one seems to.
not just what we had before.
That's a
Which is
little
nice.
odd, isn't it?
Not really. Typically, Ram are very secretive, culturally speaking. Sev may remain an enigma. I wish he would open up, though. I'd like to learn more about his people.
Before joining, I knew Aurea's band was renowned for its top-notch techniques in weaving. Why do you think that is?
To keep a points expedition gear competitive, you need a smith and an enchanter working in perfect harmony.
That works well when they're a happy couple.
And there's never been a pairing more harmonious than the union of our enchanter, Dan, and our smith, Sola.
They are sweet together.
Did you know Sola is descended from nobility in the Sansa Empire?
Again, I read your book.
Shame her family lost their fortune, though I suppose that's why she's so down to earth.
It's giving just enough for those who didn't read
Are
it
both
immediately
Dom
like I
and
do.
Sola from Sansa?
No. In fact, Darm hails from Renland, where magic is completely forbidden. I often wonder if Darm's fascination with enchanting would be as obsessive if magic wasn't dogmatically kept from him as a child.
I've travelled with the Weaver Band before, but it wasn't quite as functional as this. What makes this one run so smoothly?
The obvious answer is Aurea. Not only is she a strong point and leader herself, but her mother is one of the most famous enchantresses of our time. She's grown up surrounded by excellence.
Wow. Still, it sounds like a lot to live up to.
If it is, Aurea makes it look easy.
You said Aurea is the obvious answer to this band's success. Is there a not so obvious answer?
Ah, yes. While Oria runs the field, when it's time for the caravan to move, it's Casmin who takes over. She used to be a quartermaster on the docks of Don Brennig, facilitating relief efforts for the Udean
Tom
Federation.
Brennig. I had it a couple times.
The speed she can pack a caravan, it's no wonder that Oria trusts her to take over when it's time to move.
I'm not. How am I fitting in?
Given that I'm the newest member, how do you think I fit in?
It speaks volumes that Oria trusts you with taking over the expeditions this soon. I would have thought Casmin might take over in this interim period instead of you.
Casmin?
Up until about 6 months before you joined, Oria was training her to become her replacement as point. It was going well, then out of nowhere the training ended, and Oria began searching for a new point. I don't know if it was Oria's decision or Casmin's, but either way,
Some mysteries to be gleaned from all these different camp members.
Otherwise.
Casmin hasn't been the most welcoming towards me. I wonder if she could be upset that I'm the new point.
Knowing Casmin, if she has a problem with you, it won't be long before she confronts you about it.
Oh, fantastic.
Ah, great.
Okay, no scroll down.
Lane.
About
offering insight
yourself.
About the others is nice, but I came here to talk about you.
Themselves, I was right.
Oh, me?
Yes, surprise.
Yeah. Tell me about yourself.
There's not much to know, really. I suppose I'm the typical third child to a second son of a patriarch of a minor mercantile house in Judea.
What?
Spoken very quickly.
I've enjoyed the experience of growing up in a family embroiled in feuds so long-standing that no living relative can recall inciting incidents firsthand. At a young age, scholastic endeavors became my escape from the familial turmoil until I could finally leave home, and so on and so forth.
We got a bit of a deeper gleaming into their background.
Nothing but a classical presentation of third child issues in a Judean mercantile family.
Right. And how are you feeling since we entered the Enclave?
Truthfully, I'm not sure. Nothing's really wrong, but never mind.
You sure? Whatever's on your mind, I'm happy to listen.
Yesterday, entering the Enclave in our lifetime seemed impossible, yet today, here we are. It strikes me as an opportunity that was profoundly easy to miss. That's all. Anyway, thanks for listening.
Like it could have been done sooner, or... Get what you mean. Anything hidden about in the back of your place? No, we're good. Strange bird gramophone. That's a rear with a main quest. What else have we got about? I'll open up my magic menu or stuff like that. Oh. Box. Oh, it's where I put all my stuff.
Your tent. Might not be glamorous, but you can rest here when you're not gallivanting on expeditions.
Thank you.
It's perfect.
Don't know about perfect. I could have done a better job if we didn't lose half our supplies when we passed through the Veil.
Arrows, 2 swords. Where's your bow?
Seriously, I didn't have anything close to this in Aaron's band. Half the time I was lucky if I didn't sleep on dirt.
Huh. That's... unfortunate. I'll leave you to get settled.
Noted. What else have we got? Target practice. Can't swap my weapon though. Like a training area of some kind. Always got to appreciate a training area.
I am itching to get out there, but Oria wants to talk to me first.
Ah, I see. Story wall. I understand. There is a lot of momentum on that forward jump. It's a little bit jarring. Ooh, arcane tools. Likely used in the maintenance and calibrations of the nearby loom gates. Which again, that just puts another thing on there. Which assumably means I can find 2 more around here somewhere. Just stop sprinting, it's sending me bloody miles. Can I pet? I can. Yes. More pets. Pets from above. Got to do it at least 3 times. Yes, right on the schnoz. Look how happy he is. She is. I don't know. Don't know this creature. I don't know its biology. Again, go on, one more for me. Straight in the eye. Oh dear. Casmin? Oh, let's have a chat first.
Hey, Casmin. Recovering from our wild entrance into the Enclave?
Save it, okay? I know I should have been more prepared to move.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Oh no. They're very defensive.
Hold on, that's not what I...
If I had been more prepared, we wouldn't be missing half our supplies. With more supplies, I could have done a better job patching up Oria's wing. If I had fixed her wing properly, we
Oh
wouldn't be
boy.
in unknown territory at the
Spiraling.
point who...
Whatever it is, just say it, Kaz.
You're no Oria. I'm sorry. But she has more experience and who knows what's out there.
Hey, you're right. This is a first for me, and I'd be lying if I said I wasn't terrified. But Oria is going to guide me through this. And to start, I'm going to do everything I can to keep us all alive.
That is oddly reassuring. Staying alive is a reasonable first goal.
It's a great first goal, and one I'm pretty sure I can handle.
I can try to trust you with that.
Hey, we'll
That's all
take
I
it.
ask.
And change equipment. What? Equipment manager. Gear equipped. Casmin's caravan will be the loadout Bryn takes into her expeditions into the Enclave. Loadouts can be changed at any time at base camp, but cannot be swapped while out in the field. Noted if I'm hunting something specific. 2-handers? Yes, please. Don't have any sadness. Yeah, I just have what we started with for now. And no hat. No specific shoulder piece. It all comes on the breastplate. Okay. And a consumables belt I seemingly can't access. Understood. Right, before I chat with Oria, let's have a quick nosy around the rest of the camp. I assume this is the loom gate.
So this is a loom gate.
There you go.
It's taller than I expected.
The Enclave constructed these for transit. Oh, imagine being able to travel leagues instantly. If only it were working.
There's no sign of damage. It just seems inert.
Deactivated, perhaps? Or simply lacking the energy such a powerful enchantment would need.
You'd know better than any of us. If we could get it working, though.
Oh, the possibilities. All the places we could go. Oh, to hold the hand of my most darling wife as we whisked around the Enclave. Metaphorically, of course. The loom gates famously moved people one at a time. Too dangerous otherwise, I imagine.
You're cute together. It's great to see a couple that shares such a love of their work with one another.
Who could have it any other way?
Aww.
After being together for 7 years, we're bound to have something in common.
Come, my
I
love.
like him.
There must be something in the archives.
He's a little heavy-handed about it, but she seems to like it. There are plenty of couples who start out, we don't get him for that lovey-dovey stuff. And you see him a few years later. Oh, we've got all lovey-dovey with nicknames and cuddles and hand-holdings, have we? We're lovely to see. It's not for everyone, but again, it can be very sweet. List of names and dates innumerable. I should be able to find that last object somewhere around here then. Speak of the devil. Up this way. This was just where he ran in, wasn't it? Yes, danger that way, says game. Shattered mirror. Frame styled in Renland fashion from decades ago. So now, in theory, I take this over to Len and they can sort me out. Okay, so they have the white dots above them unless they have something to say. In which case it's the triple. And that indicates they can compile a thing. There you go. Achievement popped. Assemble your first Codex entry. Spelt bookworm with the WYRM. The Southwall Way Station. As its borders solidified, the Enclave built a series of physical fortifications along its land perimeter, the largest of these being known simply as Southwall. There were several way forts dotted along the main protective structure. The only one main entrance open to trade caravans. Sometimes I will swap, add words, or use a word that means the same thing. Practice. The station we now call home was once a resting stop just inside the Enclave's walls, a safe harbour for caravaneers to rest behind the south wall after braving the treacherous roads outside the Enclave's control. Surprisingly well-preserved transit logs found in the rubble speak to a steady stream of traffic up until the surge. Also contained in the way station's logs are entries detailing the process for transporting dignitaries to Dinervron. Dinervron. These travellers would be met here and whisked to Dinervron via the Loom Gates network, while the rest of their caravans or retinues would continue on the trade roads to their final destination. It seems that there was lucrative work to be had for weavers skilled enough to send the untrained through the Loom Gates, a process that usually takes skill, Vermantle. The process involved wrapping the non-adept in a thin weave of kinetic magic, transport them through the network. Caveat: what we know about this process was only pieced together from vague references, and it is deeply impractical for us to attempt to replicate it at the current moment. Not to mention dangerous. I need to include the word dangerous here so Dam doesn't get any funny ideas. Regardless, it seems like we may be stuck here for a while. May as well try our best to make it comfortable. I hope that hit their voice well enough. I will have to just remember half the time. I think what we'll do is I'm going to talk to Aurea, but I'm not going to go and continue an expedition. I will end the stream once we've figured things out for our next step and what Aurea has to say. Just because the next time we'll be getting into one of the... I know it's not open world in, you know, the general wide whole place at once. It's more like... We're fine. More like set biomes, like Monster Hunter levels, or something we saw in Veilguard and similar in plenty of other games. But I want to be able to have the time to fully explore it, not rush an hour, you know, just hitting a few corners. I want to take my time. So we'll chat through with Aurea here and see where we end up before calling it for the evening.
I was impressed by how you handled that drake outside the Vale.
No, thank you, I did sod all.
A little terrifying, I will admit.
But you kept a cool head and didn't let it get the better of you. Not everyone can do that.
Oh, sorry, headset.
So after all the legends, this is it. The Enclave.
And if the flickers on my end, like, let me know in the comments or live if that flicker's something you're seeing or if that's literally something with me and my screen. Can you tell?
Legends for you, maybe. Some of us trained under weavers who were born here. Still, it is surreal to see it for myself now. You're going to be out there, exploring. Promise to take it all in for me.
You must be devastated that your wing is holding you back.
I can't deny that my heart breaks at the prospect of being stuck behind the scry. But knowing I've found the right replacement helps.
That's a lot of faith in me. Also, the Codex stuff talking about how she trims the feathers leads me to believe, for those who don't like the nobility, like really long crests and wings in that case. Again, when it would come to customizing characters in potentially a sequel or later game, assuming they keep with the IP, there's a... fills the mind with ideas.
This wing won't keep me down for long. I'll be back out there soon enough.
That'd be cool.
I wouldn't have it any other way.
Anyway, enough with the sentimentality. For your first expedition, we need to get the lay of the land. Thankfully, Lane Free has an old map of the Enclave to help us get our bearings. It's 60 years old, pre-surge. No chance it's accurate, but that's where you come in.
I'll update it.
Baseline.
Exactly. We've made camp in what was once a way station for caravans entering the Enclave. Just below us is Glintwood Hollow, a valley on the outskirts of the Enclave. I've scanned it from the Overlook, and we've got 2 landmarks of note. second loom gate, and what appears to be a giant statue, possibly an ark.
You can see it from here? Must be massive.
If either is functional, Dom will throw you a party.
Huzzah. Oh, I think I've got it. Whenever my controller wire gets nicked by my finger, or I nudge it against my leg, then it flickers. I assume that's what happens when it's trying to swap to retest. That seems fine. It's when it tries to disconnect. I'll try and be a little savvier on the wire.
With fewer tangles, we're hoping the connection will be stronger. The path is down by your tent.
I'll head out now.
Bryn says, alas, not be heading out now. Because I think with that, we'll call this an intro and a good bit of story time. And we'll call it there for the day. Well, how do I save? How do I save? Wait a minute. There is no clear indication of how to... Oh, thank God. Okay. Got it. Go by his tent. Wait for here. An autosave and then several slots. Save there. Oh, that reminds me. Where's quick save? Always got to find the quick save button. Very important. There is no quick save. Okay, we just have to go through that way then. With that then, folks, I will say thank you very much for watching. I know it wasn't a very action-packed one, but it got us an intro in here into the story, the world, and kind of what we're dealing with. Tomorrow's stream will be a little longer, being it's a Friday night, and we will have the ability to properly explore our first time into one of the biomes. But if you enjoyed yourselves, had a good old story time, feel free to hit that like button for me, help push the videos through the algorithm, get folks to come and enjoy some games and stories with us. Subscribe for more content here on the channel. We're here at 9 AM with World of Warcraft, and at 6 PM in the evenings with other games. Currently, of course, Eternal Strands. That's GMT, by the way. You can find playlists for all the games we've already covered right here on the channel, Binge to your heart's content. When you go through on YouTube, next to that video tab, there's a playlist tab and a live tab. If you go in the playlist one, you can find it all organised in there for you to enjoy. Let me find a better way to arrange that outro. It's like I'm double saying what I mean. In any case, thank you very much again. And until next time, folks, much love, take care, and bye-bye.